Hi everyone and welcome back to the channel. So I'm currently going through, or probably the better term is speedrunning and blasting through my second run of Lost Judgment on the PS4 version. Why the PS4 version, you might ask? Because why the heck not, that's why. Lost Judgment released on September 24th of 2021 and is the latest title from the awesome studio RGG set in the Yakuza or Ryuga Gotoku universe, and the first ever game from RGG to have a global release. Now, I don't know about you, but this honestly calls for a round of applause. It just goes to show how far the Yakuza games have come along. Do you remember that time of uncertainty during 2015 when Yakuza 5 was barely able to get an English digital only release? Dude, Yakuza 0 came to the rest of the world 2 freaking years after its initial release in 2015. How times have changed, huh? Set 3 years after the events of the first Judgment, or Judge Eyes as it's known in Japan, it follows returning protagonist Takeyuki Yagami and the latest bizarre case that lands in his lap, and takes him all the way to Yokohama, where the events of Yakuza 7 Like a Dragon took place. And this is where the game's events will remain for the most part. It's awesome to see that RGG Studio is still hard at work as ever. Their workflow is amazing. They're busy bees. They always have something there that they're working on. And it's nice to see another title set in Yokohama. And I'm actually surprised we spent such little time in Kamurocho this time around. Seems like going forward, Yokohama is going to be the main hub for the Yakuza titles in the future. We step back into the sneakers of Yagamishi, and the game pretty much plays and feels the same as its prequel. There's some tweaks and changes here and there, but it should be noted that this title plays as a brawler, and the Judgment spin-off series will remain this way, as opposed to the new direction that mainline Yakuza games have taken with the JRPG route. Yagami is more agile this time around. Climbing up buildings is something that Yagami can do in this entry, which makes sense since he's so agile. However, this is very contextual, and you can't do it anytime as you please. So far from my experience, you can only do so when the story or side cases want you to. Another thing that has been added are stealth sections. In these sections, Yagami will assume a crouching position and slowly creep around and hide behind crates, and you can use coins to distract your enemies and choke them out. Although don't let these stealth sections discourage you, they're pretty easy and the enemies are nearly as blind as bats. Tailing has been improved upon this entry as well. Yagami can basically stick in behind anything when you're in tailing mode, as opposed to the first game where you only had specific spots that you could hide in. There is also a new function where if the person you're tailing happens to spot you, you can hold down the triangle button and Yagami will begin to mess around with his phone or pretend he's tying his shoelaces or something. This will basically allow you to blend in and lay the heat off of you until the person you're tailing continues on their way. You can now traverse the world using a skateboard or a hoverboard, Back to the Future style if you want. And you can do so by holding down the X or R2 button while running. However, you can only use this on the streets where cars operate, and Yagami will automatically switch to moving on foot if you go onto the path where pedestrians walk. Yagami retains his crane and tiger fighting styles, along with the all-new snake style, which is my personal favorite, and the boxer style, which sadly is paid DLC. Come on, RGG, this was the perfect opportunity to make this style an unlockable after you beat the Boxer Club story. Anyways, Snake style focuses on defense and parries, and there's nothing more satisfying than making the thugs you fight fumble after you parry and letting them really have it. In this style, Yagami also has some awesome EX moves when the enemies are in fear, or cowering in fear. you can make them surrender. And I totally love this. It never gets old watching those special EX moves play out. Think of this something to what Tanemura's fighting style was back in Yakuza 4. Now, as I just said, that this style is somewhat similar to the fighting style of Tanemura from Yakuza 4 with respect to the holds and parries. Where Tanemura's style honestly felt more defensive to me, Yagami's elegant snake style feels it accommodates a more offensive playstyle as well as defensive. The boxer style is pretty much self-explanatory. You unleash quick punches and overwhelm your enemies with a barrage of jabs, straight punches, and uppercuts. And you can switch between styles and juggle your enemies mid-air Tekken style. It is awesome. Landing an uppercut on an enemy and starting to punch them and juggle them around mid-air really opens up some opportunity for some fun mix-ups, Tekken style. It feels a bit like the rush style from Yakuza 0 and Kiwami. However, where the rush style focused on boxing and weaving, it also incorporated some kicks to the combos that you could dish out. Whereas here in Lost Judgment, you're basically Japanese Steve Fox, and I'm honestly all for it. I can say that I love the style, and I hope that they keep this for future entries as a standard style that you start out with. My only gripe with the style is that you have to upgrade your skills by first buying them from the boxing gym through the school diaries and then being able to purchase them from the skills menu in order to use them in normal gameplay outside of the boxing minigame, which further adds to what I previously said, that they should have made the style unlockable after you finish the boxing minigame and not as a DLC. You can now hold the attack button to charge up and unleash powerful blow with any style of fighting, but keep in mind I'm talking about the heavy attacks with the triangle button. This will also cause anyone dumb enough to be in your way to get sent flying sky high. This is especially true with the Tiger style, and I honestly don't exactly remember if this was in the original Judgment, but it feels new here, so I'm assuming that this is the case, but I could be wrong. Now, of course, as is Yakuza style custom, you can roam around the dense city filled with things to do, shops to shop at, diners to eat at, arcades to blow off some steam. You get the gist of things. There's no shortage of things to do here. But what I think is probably one of the most enjoyable parts for me is the school diaries. It's sort of like playing a Japanese high school simulation type of thing, sort of like Japanese Bully, if you will. You might ask how Yagami is involved with school activities? It's not much of a spoiler, but he basically becomes an advisor to one of the clubs at the school. And from there on, if you choose to dive into school diaries and ignore the main story for a while, you're gonna be in for quite a hoop, as you can easily get lost in these goofy adventures of the school diaries. I honestly, as of the making of this video, have not finished the school diaries, but I'm still getting around to it and I'm having a blast doing so. I would say that some of my gripes with the game is that it feels more of the same, but that's not exactly a bad thing. It's a familiar taste, and for me, while it can get repetitive sometimes, I still had a blast with the game nonetheless. It's pretty much more of the same of what we love, improved upon here and there. There is really no shortage of wacky moments and cases that you can explore. Yagami will face some really bizarre, fun, and heartfelt cases on his journey, and it's a joy to explore. One of the side cases that stand out to me is of a young woman that is spooked if someone's stalking her, only to discover that it was a cat this whole time that mistook her for her previous owner that died in a car accident. As well as hearing rumors about a body model for a school that stalks the school at night. All these wacky moments that Yagami goes through just makes it a joy to play and explore. Lost Judgment has lots of foot-tapping, head-banging music that I enjoyed listening to. The chase music, the fights, and cutscenes. I think the Crane fighting style has the best music out of all the fighting styles. And the intro song, Rasen, is one of the best opening themes I've heard in a while, and it really fits the mood, theme, and tone of the main story. I read the English lyrics of the song after beating the main game and the main story, and you can really tell that this song was not chosen just because it sounds good, but because it also speaks about the story in its own way, and you can see the song fitting many of the characters' point of views. Also, in regards to cases and presenting evidence as well as some of the choice throughout the game, there is no actual consequence to presenting the wrong piece of evidence. And as other reviewers have stated, it pretty much is a railway in the investigation part, which basically means that there's no consequence to choosing the wrong answer or providing the wrong piece of evidence, as you'll be given pretty much unlimited chances to correct your errors without fear of failure. I gotta say, although it lessens the tension of choosing the wrong answer, it personally doesn't bother me, but I can see it definitely bothering others and totally get and understand that. Yagami has some new gadgets to aid him in solving his cases, such as a sound amplifier and a device that acts as a detector. And last but not least, a Shiba Inu dog companion that helps you sniff out crime. No pun intended. I would have also liked to be able to climb on buildings freely without being forced to do so in the context of the main story or side cases, and allow us to explore Kamurocho and Yokohama vertically and a bit more freely. Now, I understand how these games operate, but with that being said, it still would have been nice to see, as RGG Studio is pretty well known for making good use of their established assets and building upon them. The game starts in Yokohama, where the first responders have been called to a location where a body that has been rotting for quite some time is discovered. We then cut to Yagami and Kaito working on a case in Kamurocho, and after they're done with their business, they receive a call from Saori-san about a case that they're working on at the Genda Law Office, concerning a groping case in which they're acting as the defense for the culprit of this case. After the judge issues a verdict and sentences the culprit to a 6-month sentence, the defendant reveals that a murder has taken place 3 days prior in Yokohama. Amidst the confusion and outlandish nature of the situation, many questions swell up as how this person knew of a murder that took place at the same time that his trial was going on. Now, in order to get to the bottom of this, they end up in Ijincho, Yokohama. I will not go further into the details of the story as I want you to experience it for yourself, but let me tell you, this game does not hold back. It's brutal, gruesome, dark, and in your face, and tackles some heavy subjects such as bullying and suicide. And let's just say that Yagami gets pushed to his limits and some really intense events occur throughout the game. You'll be engrossed and waiting to see what happens next. I just want to comment and say that there were some scenes that honestly made me feel uncomfortable and even sick to my stomach at times. The themes and subjects of suicide and bullying is something I honestly applaud RGG Studio for taking on. Although this entry feels a little more on the, and I don't know exactly what's the best term to use, but it felt a little small scale, but not entirely. You'll know what I mean when you go through the story, but I honestly like that about the story, that it felt just a little bit more grounded. Aside from that, I also want to note that it was pretty cool that RGG gave a few nods to the mainline Yakuza series, whether it would be a few short cameos or talking about certain events that happened within the mainline Yakuza games that have had an effect within the Judgment series, and that was honestly very cool, and it felt rewarding to see that as a fan of the series and someone who's played all the games and been with the franchise for a long time. Even though it's a very small thing, but I still appreciated it. Now, as I'm sure you're all aware, Yakuza series creator Toshihiro Nagoshi has left Sega, and this was his last project as one of the writers of the game. We wish him all the best, and here's a big thank you to Nagoshi Sensei for all the awesome games you've helped create it and the awesome memories we've had with them. There is also the matter of Yagami possibly not being able to return to the Judgment series due to the agency that's in charge of Yagami's actor not wanting the game to be ported on PC, where his likeness can be altered or played around and modded with. Yeah, I wonder how that is working out for them. But even if this is the last judgment with Yagami as the main character, it was a good run, and there are many other possibilities that they can explore with the series, but only time will tell. I have faith that the team left in charge of the Yakuza and Judgment games will continue to make awesome titles. I also heard that they're working on something unrelated to Yakuza, so that'll be awesome to see when the time comes around. Now, the hardest part of all of this is, at the moment, we're waiting for the newest Yakuza title in which will continue Ichiban's adventures. And the same goes for the Judgment games. And for when we'll see Yagami return to the spotlight. But until then, I'll continue to enjoy and dive further into these games and dissect them until the latest release. Thank you so much for watching the video until the end. I hope you've enjoyed watching the video as I've enjoyed making it. This was honestly fun to make, and I'm currently working on many other videos as well. If you want to support the channel, you can do so by spreading the word and by watching and enjoying the videos. So again, thank you so much, and until next time, we'll see you all soon. Take care. Peace. Thank you for watching the video until the end. I want to extend my thanks to you all again for watching the video, and I apologize that the video is a little rough around the edges. I hope to do more of these, so if you enjoyed it and want to see more, please subscribe and stay tuned.